Are freelancers entrepreneurs? Thanks for your request, John. Although people sometimes use the terms freelancer and entrepreneur synonymously or assume they're the same because they have some similarities, they are not the same thing because they work in different ways. The similarities both tend to be either self-employed as sole traders or director of their own limited company. Neither are employed by businesses in a traditional capacity, they are free to work for whoever they choose. Both run their own business and are responsible for earning their salary and setting their direction for the future. There's some overlap in personal qualities for freelancers and entrepreneurs, such an independent spirit, a strong sense of initiative, and being their own boss. However, you could also say this of contractors and gig workers, and they're not the same either. In simple terms, entrepreneurs, freelancers, contractors, and gig workers all work for themselves rather than for a company. But the way each of these groups work is different. I won't cover contractors and gig workers here, since you didn't ask about those. The difference is freelancers spend the majority of their time working with clients, directly exchanging their time for money, earning active income. Sell a service that they're personally skilled in, such as writing, editing, design, web development, and make a living by doing something they love. Generally work in their business, not on it. Have aims and goals to gain more freedom and control over their lives, and to sustain themselves financially so they can have a better work-life balance. Are a one-person band and are generally happy working on their own. Generally do the majority of the work themselves and often don't outsource tasks to others. Entrepreneurs spend the majority of their time growing and scaling their business, indirectly exchanging time for money, and trying to earn passive income. Sell a service or product, but don't necessarily spend their time doing the day-to-day work of providing that service. Generally work on their business, not in it. Have aims and goals to grow the business to make a significant profit, have an impact on the world, offer something revolutionary, sell on, etc. Building a network of contacts is often very important to the success of their venture. Often outsource tasks to others or hire people to work for them, freeing up time for them to work on the business. The in-betweeners. There are also some people who sit in between the two groups, freelancers who are striving to become entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs who have decided to become freelancers. People who are doing a bit of both. The verdict: although freelancers and entrepreneurs have some similarities in terms of the independent nature of their work, they work in fundamentally different ways and have very different focuses for their business. They can be, but they usually don't mix so well. A freelancer turns into an entrepreneur when their workload has become large enough for them to hire other people to do the work, or they want to add extra services. Entrepreneurs focus on making money and growing their business. Freelancers focus on getting steady work and doing a great job that attracts repeat customers and new ones. Here are some interesting differences I just found between a freelancer and a solo entrepreneur. 1. A freelancer is about the work. An entrepreneur is about the business. 2. A freelancer is a doer. A freelancer knows the tactics. An entrepreneur is a negotiator, a visionary and a thinker. An entrepreneur builds strategy and is constantly testing it. 3. A freelancer thinks the work is the business. An entrepreneur knows the business supports the work. 4. A freelancer is disinterested in business controls and necessities, including thinking, budgets, invoices, business plans, that gets in the way of the real work. An entrepreneur understands that without those business controls and necessities, it's not a business. It's a job. 5. A freelancer might want to grow a client base. An entrepreneur knows a business either grows or decays, and is constantly looking for ways to keep the growth managed and within reasonable risk parameters. 6. A freelancer lives in the now with an eye to long-term client relationships that might afford some security. An entrepreneur is looking to a vision of the business, now as a reflection of what the business will be. 7. A freelancer often doesn't invest in his or her own equipment, training, or help. Many freelancers don't delegate low-level skills or tasks they don't do well, because they think poor, rather than think investment. An entrepreneur knows that time is money, invests in future development and the business vision. An entrepreneur will pay for skills that he or she doesn't have, knowing that it is money well spent on quality and commitment. 8. A freelancer works from day to day. An entrepreneur has a business plan. 9. It depends on what definition you are using for entrepreneur. 10. We all sort of know what a freelancer is. They aren't permanently employed by one company and hire themselves out to numerous companies to get paid for their work. They are self-employed, and oftentimes their freelance ventures have been formalized into a one-person business. 11. The term entrepreneur is a little shakier. If you use the dictionary definition, I'll just point out that this isn't always the best way to define terms, since we often use words in a way that is different from their dictionary definitions. You get a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses, taking on greater than normal financial risks in order to do so. Sounds great. Many freelancers are also technically business owners, and they often take on significant financial risks, so yes, they are entrepreneurs. 12. I think if you ask the average Joe on the street, not someone particularly interested in entrepreneurship, they would say that basically an entrepreneur is someone who is self-employed. Under this definition, a freelancer is an entrepreneur. 13. One other way to define a word is to look at how the thought leaders are using it. So for instance, Seth Godin likes to distinguish freelancing from entrepreneurship. According to Godin, the goal of the freelancer is to set up their next job. The goal of the entrepreneur is to build something bigger than herself, preferably that can work even without her there. Under this definition, a freelancer is not an entrepreneur. 14. Personally, I like that last definition best. One of the things that everyone needs to learn how to do to be able to think well is to make careful distinctions and clarify their terms. It's useful to have two terms for two different approaches to self-employment. Under this system, the term self-employed would describe both freelancers and entrepreneurs, and those two terms would describe contrasting approaches to self-employment.